Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back out here in the garage on the YF-17 project. We have a week and a half until the event that this airplane is going to, and we're going to make it. I just finished up hinging everything, so everything's glued. All the hinges are glued in now, so now we have all of our flight controls working. You see here. So basically all it's left to do now is, on the wing at least, is to put the servos in it, put them all up. Elevators are done. They're not installed yet, but they're in. Rudders are all done. So there's just a little bit of like small little bodywork touch-up stuff to do. It looks pretty good on video. In person it's got a lot of little things wrong with it, but I'm not going to get super carried away with bodywork on this thing. Trying to keep the weight down, and it's Depron and it's not glassed, so it's gonna ding super easy. And the more time you spend on something like this, when it gets damaged, the more it pisses you off. So you kind of gotta find the fine line between good enough and overboard. So anyways, it looks freaking cool, man. A few things left I gotta do. I gotta make some afterburner cans, I gotta make missile rails, I gotta do the inlet splitters, and then I gotta make a canopy. So I bought a free wing F-18 canopy, and it didn't look too bad, but it was a little small, so I used that to make a new plug. So we're gonna make a canopy. I gotta do a little basic cockpit in here. You see though, it's looking pretty sweet. Like I said, just a little bit of body work, a little bit more primer work to do. I got to do magnets on the hatch. Let's see. And then I think that's it. Hook up all the control rods and everything. So by the end of this weekend, I'm hoping that it's going to be painted or ready to paint and everything else done for the most part. So anyways, like I said, we're going to make it to the event for sure with the airplane finished. I got a bunch of other little stuff I got to get done on some other airplanes too, so I'll be doing that in between this thing getting painted and everything and all that. So the decals should be showing up in the next couple of days, so I have that to look forward to. We're also going to be doing a quick repaint on Bentley's FMS A10, so we got that. And I'm probably going to set up the free wing A10 for FPV flying. So originally I was going to do my T-28, but I'm going to have to get another camera set up for that one, because this A-10 just seems like it'd be too much fun to go zipping around the desert, low level, inside the cockpit, so, and making gun noises. Put some fake tanks out there or something. Anyways, yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll check back in a little bit when we have more progress to show. Alright guys, so I just finished up, well, I got to do that leading edge flap still, but the flaps and ailerons are all set up and done. Got the first LE flap done, so you can see how I have the servo arm. It's straight in line with the push rod. So when they're in the up position, they are locked, and all the load is off of the electrical portion of the servo. There is load going through the servo structurally, but not electrically, so I'm not going to fry the motor just flying around normal. And then at full throw, which that's probably about right for full throw, you can see I'm pretty far back on the swing of the servo arm, but I have full servo swing here, so I can't remember how much torque these are. I want to say they're 100 ounces or 90 something ounces, which is a ton for such a small servo. And they're all aluminum case, so they're very strong. And yeah, so they should do the job. Everything's very tight, especially in the up position, which is what we want to prevent chances of flutter. And everything else feels really good too, nice and strong. So anyways, these little servos get a little warm, but I'm gonna have a little cover over this, and there'll be air blown over it, because it's a pretty high powered digital servo. And these are actually made to run on 2-cell lipos, but I'm only going to be using 2S Lifey, so they won't even be being pushed that hard. So anyways, pretty stoked. I was able to get kind of the same setup on the flaps. Basically, full throw on the servo is the exact amount of throw I want on the flap, which is super nice. I like to do that to take the most advantage of the torque of the servo. So if you're running your push rods on the very farthest end of your arm, but you're having to reduce the throw to keep the travel where you want it, you're not taking full advantage of the leverage offered by the servo arm, or you're not taking full advantage of the torque of the servo either. So I like to set stuff up like this, especially on a surface like this that's going to be under a lot of stress. This front flap is going to want to go all kinds of different directions depending on the speed, so it's got to be tight and strong, no slop, and a really good servo. So that's what we got these Spectrum A7100s in here, which is actually the same servo I have on the elevators on my Bearcat, and those things are huge, so they seem to do just fine on that airplane, although I'm not using a lot of deflection on that airplane, but still. Anyways, I'm going to do some vinyl covers for the servo, or the flap servo, and the servo lead channels, and then this will get like a Mylar cover over this whole section right here. And again, it's on the bottom. The real YF-17 has a nice little pod, actually, like a fairing that runs from the leading edge flap back to the aileron, and I'd like to do that at some point. I don't know if I'll be able to get it done right now. It's going to have to be probably molded or something to kind of cover everything, so we'll eventually get to that. For now, I'm probably just going to leave the linkages exposed. I might actually just do like a little platform, like a side piece, that to where it looks like the fairing from the side, but then everything's exposed on the inside and I can get to everything. Because again, this isn't a competition model, this is a sport model, so I'm not getting too carried away with some of this stuff. But anyways, pretty happy with that. So we got to finish up this side and then tidy up all this stuff, and then the wing, aside from bodywork, will be done, which this is the biggest hurdle to get over. Once this is all done, everything else is just little nitnoid stuff. That's not a big deal. So let's get this other one cracked out. Alright guys, so got the wing pretty much wrapped up. You can see I'm doing some little touch-ups on the bodywork here. This stuff you can use over Depron with the polyurethane and some primer, but you got to be very careful with it. It'll definitely melt the foam if you get too much on it. But a little bit here and there, and it's nice and warm and it dries quickly, not a big deal. So you see I did some vinyl over the channels so that if I have to change anything or tear anything up, I can just take the vinyl off. It's not the prettiest way, but again, sport scale, it is what it is. So I still need to make the cover for this section here. I'm going to make that out of Mylar. But yeah, everything's come along pretty good. See, I don't have the elevators attached yet. I have all that stuff made, it's just not, and these aren't attached either. So, but yeah, it's come along pretty good. I think I'm gonna get my inlet splitter plates made, and I gotta make the missile rails, some little stuff like that. So, moving along. And good news, I just weighed everything. I'm still at 8 pounds with a battery, so with a 7,000 pack. So, and these are the, again, these are the fans from like a X-Fly B1 or G65. So I can run a 5,000 if I really wanted to get light. I also have some 6250s that are a bit lighter, but I'm gonna more than likely just use the 7,000s. So anyways, that's where we're at. So as long as I don't get too carried away with the cockpit or the paint, this thing will be 8.5 pounds or less, which is fantastic considering that is hardly any more than the F-16, and it's a lot more airplane, so it should really fly slow nicely. So, and it should be able to cruise at pretty low power settings and get decent flight times, and also be fairly fast. It's a fairly clean design with a super thin wing. The only thing that isn't spectacular is the ducting, but it's not horrible. I've seen worse. So yeah, it's coming along good. Alright, so I got the inlet splitters done. You can kind of see how they work now. So they pretty much just look like they're supposed to, but they don't actually function like they're supposed to on the real thing. And in this case, we're going to let air in behind them into the inlet. So that's how they work. Alright, so the bottom is as good as I'm going to get it. looks pretty good on video, not perfect in person, but again, fun scale, foamy, so. But it looks pretty good. You can see how the inlet splitters turned out. Look pretty sweet. And again, the inlets are about the only thing that really aren't all that scale on this model, because they aren't canted inward, nor are they D-shaped. So they are what they are, but they don't look bad. So the top's ready to primer. As soon as this is dried up, we're gonna flip it over and do the top. You can see I made some little covers here for the outboard servos. So I think it looks pretty good. I managed to get the bodywork on the LE flap to the wing pretty good, so that looks real nice and clean. You see, everything looks pretty good. From about 5 feet, this model will look fantastic. So looks not like foam, and that's the whole point. So anywho, let's get this thing flipped over and paint the top side. All right, well, there you have it. Top's all primed. Looks pretty good. Flight control gaps turned out really nice. It's gonna do one final sand before paint. Let me put these up. Oops, still a little tacky. You can see how nice the gaps ended up for the. See if we can do without sticking my hand in something wet. Probably not. So nice and tight. This one's not quite up all the way. That's about how it'll be when it's up. Anyways, probably stop the video there, keep it somewhat short. You see she's got all the right lines, and it looks good. So this needs a final sand. I got to do the afterburners, obviously, missile rails, hatch magnets, cockpit, then paint. So decal showed up. Everything looks pretty good. So yeah, we'll end the video here, and yeah, next time you guys see a YF-17 video, it'll probably be the last one of the build series. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.